Hello, delegates. Hello, everyone. I hope you are all ready for our next session, which is going to be presented by Kory, who I've known for a very, very long time. Our paths have crossed in many different spaces and eras. And so today, here is another little pin mark on our journey. We were both part of the 2017 cohort together. And so we've kind of invited her here to just give a bit of a presentation on some of her experiences, both during the session, during the summit and past, and how that has helped to shape her professional and personal career. So with that, Kory, we will ask our tech guy to please stop sharing the screen for us so that you can have an opportunity to share your slides. Cool. Kory, do you have the capability to share your screen? You are on mute if you're talking to me. I believe in you. You can do this.
Aha, there we go.
Great.
Technology, it's not, it makes us nervous. We shall not allow it to throw it off our game. No ways. Okay. Cool. I can share my screen, but I just want to then take a moment to introduce myself. I don't know, Elizabeth, I should be introducing myself.
Oh, you have 30 minutes. You can do what you like.
Okay, cool.
Thanks, Kory.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to at least show my face while I can, and I do have a presentation prepared. But I wanted to take this time that I have, that I'm really grateful for, because as Elizabeth shared, we were both part of the 2017 cohort, and I honestly know so many people. I think biasly, it was the best cohort, but there are so many people who could be sharing about their awesome experience since BYM in my group alone as well. So I want to take this moment to share something I would have liked to hear. And just expressing my gratitude for this opportunity. It really is amazing and I appreciate it. So yeah. Without further ado, let me do the screen sharing thing. Cool. So I actually want to take a bit of a shot left in this time, as we have focused on some very interesting topics in this, sessions. And of course, they are relevant to all of us. Agri-tech, the biggest problems basically in Africa, and we are, as we should, focusing on them as the brightest young minds, right? What are those problems, that we are most faced with in South Africa, or in Africa, because that's actually what we should be solving. But I want to take a moment to kind of switch it around and focus on you as a person, which we don't always do in these spaces. And I think it is so, so important. And it's one of the things that I honestly benefited the most from at the BYM Summit when I was there. And your growth, your evolution, as you heard Sarah's presentation yesterday, you're going to grow and change, and the problems that you tackle will be in proportion to your capacity to grow and evolve. And that is something you always need to have with you, an open mind, a mind that is constantly being trained and expanded to tackle these problems that are going to be pretty huge, and they're going to demand a bigger, more evolved you that has the capacity to tackle them. And so that's really what I want to focus on. So, cool. So, when I was sitting in your seat, I really felt like such an imposter. I don't know why or how to put it, but that was the truth. When I walked into BYM, my roommate, whom I met, was one of the most amazing people immediately. Her name was Grace. She came from Uganda, and she had invented something called a pedo tap, which is basically a tap that you activate with your foot instead of your hands, because there were actually a lot of diseases floating around that were spread with contact of the hands. And when I first heard that, I thought, oh my goodness, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? How did I get here? And the truth is, I think, and it may seem at first like I'm preaching to the converted, right? When it comes to imposter syndrome, obviously you're all here because you are bright, you have accomplished great things, you are already involved and doing a lot of great things. But the truth is, it's often the most accomplished, most people who have achieved the most things who feel like they haven't done anything at all. We can honestly be our own biggest and worst critics, right? And I think if you're the cleverest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? But we often look at each other and look at other people, especially with social media, because it's so much easier to see what other people are achieving now, right? And obviously everyone shares their highlight reels. And not always, I'll share that I'm speaking at BYM and I'm so excited, but I won't always share that, oh my word, was starting a product-based business the best thing to do? Those are private conversations you have with people close to you. So the truth is, we can all feel like imposters sometimes, like everyone else knows what they're doing. And that's kind of my story. Number one is everyone else knows what they're doing, right? What's going on? Why do I feel so lost? And I remember sharing, we had a fireside chat. So you kind of get to share some of your failures, right? Or the things that you regret, because we always seem to be seeing the success stories and not enough of the failures along the way and the journey. So we got an opportunity at our BYM to share our fireside chat. And I shared my story about, obviously I had just met Grace. I was meeting the other delegates who were so impressive. And I had just finished my degree in civil engineering. I then went on to teach English in South Korea, then was in the middle of my, postgrad in industrial engineering. And obviously then the last degree that I had completed was civil engineering. And I felt like such a failure after that degree, because I had seriously fallen from grace of, having been perceived as a top student in high school, and really felt like a fish climbing a tree trying to finish that degree. And it was terrible for me. The other thing about imposter syndrome and how that comes about is we all have these regrets. No matter how successful you are, no one's path is perfect and smooth and easy. And we all have something, a failure, right? Or a regret that happened in our lives, because life is moving, different parts of our life are moving at different paces. So even though one area might be thriving, some other areas are seriously lagging, and hence the regrets. So I'm going to share a couple of my stories. Hopefully I'll get through them all, that are relevant to BYM. Just to illustrate some of these points that I hope will resonate with you. But I shared about my fireside chat of how this regret, this thing was haunting me. And doesn't matter really what it is. We all have one of those. But I was in the process of rewriting my story and changing the narrative. And as I said, so many of us are actually our own worst critic. And we beat ourselves up, especially accomplished people who seem to have achieved a lot of things. They don't think they're successful. Successful people don't think they're successful. They're always looking ahead and thinking, I could do more. And by the end of my second degree, my honors in industrial engineering, I didn't know it at the time, but I had passed with distinction. And what that meant for me, no matter what it meant for everyone else when they hear the story, is finally I am rewriting the story and the narrative of whatever it is that felt like it was holding me back. And that involves getting back into the arena, getting up and fighting for things that we feel we have fallen short on, and not quite achieved the way we would have wanted to. Again, we're pretty hard on ourselves, but that's just something where that inner critic, we need to make it our friend, actually. We need to get it onto our side and not let failure define us in whatever way that actually ends up keeping us back, that actually ends up self-sabotaging. And I'm going to get into limiting belief a little bit later. But basically, everyone sometimes feels like an imposter for whatever silly reasons. And I mean, it seems so silly now, but at the time, it really felt like something so serious. And I just want to say, when you feel like you want to shrink, you should expand instead, take up space. If you are the smartest person in the room, you are probably not in the right room. And you should rub shoulders with people who have achieved great things, who are doing great things, and rise, to the occasion, rise to a standard. And you have permission now in the space of people who are doing amazing things. Get to know them, reach out to them, befriend them. And our BYM group, to this day still keeps in contact. We have a WhatsApp group that is super active still to this day. We saw messages yesterday already. I'm gonna skip this video because it is, I think it's 2 minutes long, but I'm going to share it rather in the chat later on Steve Jobs, on failure. I'm a big fan of Steve Jobs. We're an Apple family here. But I want to share that, I've read all of the biographies of Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, and success really leaves clues. And I encourage you to watch this video later because he speaks about how when he was 12 years old, he actually phoned a very impressive guy and reached out and just asked him a question. And that guy ended up giving him a job. And he said that most people actually fail in life because they never ask. They never bother to ask. They never bother to step forward and ask questions and put themselves out there. And again, it may seem like I am preaching to the choir here. It may seem like you are already the converted, but I really want to encourage you that no matter what you have already accomplished and achieved and done, that your work isn't done. And you need to actually, however big you think you are thinking, you need to think bigger, much bigger. And that is one of the shifts and things that you will see in BYM as well is, the problems that we think we are tackling, if they feel comfortable, if they feel doable, it's not big enough. It really isn't. And that is the kind of way in which we need to expand, not just in the tasks that we tackle, but the more we expand, the more we grow our capacity. And this is where your thinking, this is where your capacity starts to grow, and when you start rubbing shoulders with other impressive people, that's when your thinking starts to get bigger. The problems that you want to tackle, that greatness that is in you, that you have some inkling of because you applied for BYM and you got in here, but there's more. There is always more. And I want to say to you, or I want to invite you to take that on and to keep thinking, no matter what you are busy with, how can it be bigger? How can it be more? Because we have enough people who are super complacent and relaxed, and who may never reach their potential. But for you who has an inkling of it, I think it's so important to go for it. So story number 2 is one of the times that I asked and put my, hand up was while I was studying civil engineering. I really wanted to give this engineering thing a try. I am actually right-brained. As I said, I was a fish climbing a tree. And I really wanted to give this thing a shot, but I wanted my work to be meaningful. I wanted to work for an organization that stands for something, has a great vision. So I contacted people at, actually the CEO at Engineers Without Borders, and asked for a holiday job. I was like, it's fine if I can't get remuneration, but I just want experience and I want to work for a meaningful company with a vision that has impact, especially social impact, which we just spoke about in the previous panel. And I ended up working right under the CEO, who is an amazing, amazing woman, incredible leader that I learned so much from. And I ended up doing these kind of menial tasks. It was like, when you start to run your own business and get to see how organizations are really run at a top level, the operations are really not glamorous, right? So I was involved in little documents here and there, putting them together. And I didn't think that I was really doing that well. But I held on and I was listening and trying to learn. And one day she emailed me. By the way, we had never met. So we worked completely virtually. We were in different cities. And, we had done some, Skype conversations, but that's about it. So we had seen each other, but not met. And one day she said, you know what, I'm actually going to be stepping down from my CEO role. And I've been working closely with you, and I really think you have potential, and I would like you to apply for my role. What? I unfortunately can't see the chat. I got off I connected with my phone, so I'm sorry if there are things coming in. Please interrupt me, Elizabeth, by the way, if there are important questions coming in. But yeah, I was in total shock that this woman asked me to apply for her job. And just fast forward to the interview, I accepted to do it, and I promised myself that I'm not going to take myself out of the race. I'm going to do my best to step forward and put my best foot forward and actually complete this process and go for it. And if these people entrust me with it, then I will say yes. So it got down to the final 2, and I was one of them, for Engineers Without Borders South Africa. And I remember a turning point in that interview that came about, that actually determined the verdict of that interview. And they asked me, when you are CEO, what would be your percentage split between doing and planning? And I think that I said 70% planning and 30% doing. And I remember being in front of the whole board and the lady who was smiling at me the entire time during the interview kind of stopped and her face changed. And they looked at each other, and I knew that that was actually the moment I lost the job. And it was a very important lesson for me, because I realized that I was still very much, I didn't know at that time that I would end up being an entrepreneur like I am now full time. BYM was a huge part of that. But I realized that I wasn't yet in the arena. I wasn't yet playing offense the way I should have and could have. And I think that for me was a switch of, I need to change and grow myself. I need to stop being in planning mode, which a lot of us are, especially when it comes to starting a business. Get out of planning mode, because the truth is you can only achieve by doing, by putting yourself out there, by trying things. And yes, that leads to failure, but you fail fast. And very importantly, you fail forward when you actually learn from what you do. So you tend to not make the same mistakes twice, hopefully. But that moment where I realized, if I really want to be the Kory I hope to be, I need to do more than I plan. I need to not wait for things to be, handed to me or shown to me. I've since changed, I promise, and evolved. But that is the amazing thing as well about, in a way, being a BYMer and rising to the occasion and seeing what other people are doing and learning, right? Is that I'm seeing some comments coming in, I think, but I can see the number going up, but I don't know what is being said. So I'll have to read that afterwards. But you have to do more than you plan, very importantly. And man bigger than task is, we've been always focused on tasks and, getting more qualifications, going to more conferences like these, and that's all great, but you need to grow. You need to be someone who's all about that self-education. And Vibke, thank goodness, was not looking at the tasks that I was doing, but was looking at the potential of the person. And I think that is why you are here as a BYM attendee and delegate, and panelist and speaker, whatever it is, that there is potential in you that other people see. And I would encourage you to get to know yourself, get to know your strengths, get to know who you are. And I love this one: more than a career, seek a calling. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you will be able to have or pursue your calling within your career, but oftentimes soon you'll realize that your career will not be able to contain your calling. And your calling has to do with who you are, not what you do, which is your career. And I would encourage you to learn as much about yourself as possible, and keep having that growth mindset of learning new things, of being curious, follow your curiosity. And I really think that self-education is what ends up earning people a fortune. So as I said, with Elon Musk's and the Jeff Bezos and Steve Jobs of the world, like, they never think they're successful. But success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. And that is self-education. Learning about yourself, knowing who you are, using your strengths, forgetting your weaknesses, depending on how you see things. But a lot of people say, forget your weaknesses and focus on your strengths, and focus on, growing as a person. And you will soon see that you'll grow to tackle much bigger tasks. So self-awareness and growth is so important. Look for any tools that you can. Johari Window is one of them. Ikigai is another one. I sometimes do this as well as a personal development exercise every now and again to check in with myself. I know I'm running out of time. But basically, I want to say, follow that curiosity. Sometimes learning, the most learning you'll be doing is about unlearning on the limiting beliefs and the fears that have actually been keeping you back. Don't settle, though, and keep going. Don't settle for, I'm okay, I'm comfortable here. If you're comfortable, you need to get out. You need to get out. I beg you, you should never be comfortable. And everything that you tackle, a good friend of mine actually said this, every new job or new task that you tackle should have an element of you feeling like you won't be able to do it. You feeling like a bit of an imposter. Because then you're in the right place because you are going to grow and it's up to you to rise to the occasion. So I know I have so little time, but story number 3 is about when I got invited to the MIT bootcamp, where I had to raise $6,000 to go to. Didn't believe I made it in, but it was a global MIT innovation and entrepreneurship bootcamp. And I must say, the first people that I could share it with, just like when I finally passed my degree with distinction and rewrote that terrible self-criticizing story, was with my BYM group. And the very same people in that group gave some money for me to go to that bootcamp. And afterwards, I could actually also help some other people raise funds for that. And I raised $6,000 in a month for that. And it was incredibly scary. It's still one of the scariest things that I've ever done. I've never put myself out there like I did then. And it paid off. And what's important there is basically tackle those doubts, tackle those fears, the things that you want most, and the best things in life are on the other side of your fears. Don't be afraid of being lost, feeling lost. You can only connect the dots looking backwards, not forwards. And that zigzag that looks like where the freak are you going is often you being on the right path. So I'm going to close. I know we've got like 2 minutes left. I included some limiting beliefs about yourself, money, love, career. Yeah, one of my biggest realizations is that your health is your wealth. Again, focusing on you, being you. We know in COVID that there's nothing you can do without your health. And then finishing off with the parable of the talents. I think that's something you can all read. You can do a screenshot of this. But I think at the end of the day, we're really going to be held accountable for what we've done, and not just what we've thought of, what we've planned, what we've wished, but what we have done. And it's so important to take our talents seriously and share them with the world. Yeah, and think big, 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 scary big. If it doesn't scare you, it probably isn't big enough. And yeah. So I'm going to leave it there and say, if you would like to contact me or get in touch, yeah, these are my contact details.